Hello, welcome. I'm Cassie. If it's our first time practicing together, welcome to your meditation practice today. We are going to work a little bit with our boundaries. On our healing path, on our healing journey, I think that boundaries are a really essential part. And you probably hear about boundaries all the time, but I think in practice it can be really difficult to say no when we need to say no, to not feel guilty about it, and just to actually, do it. I struggle with this myself, but it's a practice I'm working on, and a practice that has really helped me, not only in the benefit of whatever the boundary you set is. So maybe if you decide not to show up to something one evening, for example, that means you get to rest and take care of yourself. That in itself is really helpful. But it's also a way of reclaiming your agency and saying, no, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm doing. This is what's best for me, and I'm making a choice that serves me. So in this way, you are nurturing a relationship with yourself and making it clear to others where you stand. So I really know this is easier said than done. So our yoga practice generally is intended to be a practice of these tools and strategies we use to get through uncomfortable moments, so that when they happen outside in the rest of the world, off of the four corners of our yoga mat, we already kind of have some ways of dealing with it. Okay, so that's basically what we're going to practice today. So you can be laying down, you can be seated, whichever place is most comfortable. Feel free to take all the padding and support you need, make it as comfortable as possible for yourself. Typically in meditation we are still, but if you need to move, please move. Remembering we're here to choose how we practice, and I can't possibly know, especially through a video, what's best for you. So if you need to move and adjust something at some point, just go ahead and do it. And you probably see a lot of pictures of people meditating sitting up like I am right now, but for a lot of us that's not actually the most comfortable place to be. I personally like to lay down, but just making sure you won't fall asleep. And if you do, oh well, you probably need the rest. Okay. Settling into your comfortable place. If you'd like to, you can close the eyes down. If you'd like to keep the eyes open, you might just let the gaze rest on one spot. And then noticing how we're feeling in our body today. If there's any sensations you can track and notice. Maybe there's some pain somewhere or some tension. And for the other parts of the body, if you don't feel much, it's usually a pretty good sign, unless it's numb, but if it's just not popping out to you, it's usually a pretty good sign that everything is working as planned in those areas. So the body is carrying out all the functions properly. So maybe taking a moment or two to appreciate that. Could start to notice what your energy level is in this moment. Start to notice your thoughts now. So we're watching the thoughts come and go. They'll come into the mind and then they'll leave. This eternal changing of our thoughts is part of all of nature. Everything changes. So when I think of watching the thoughts, I like to imagine I'm laying on the back, looking up at the sky. The clouds are like the thoughts. They arrive at different speeds, different shapes, different sizes, always changing. Coming into my view and then passing. Some hang on a little longer. Some are a little lighter, some a little darker. But for sure, always changing. Always coming, always going, and it allows us to be less involved in the thoughts. So we take on this role of a witness. So that the thoughts become just one part of our experience, just like our bodily sensations. We're starting to see that the thoughts are not who you are. They are just one small part of your experience, one manifestation of you. There's many others. So what that means is we can hold the thoughts loosely. We can let them pass, let them come and let them go without clinging to them or thinking that they'll be forever, because they will not. Okay. Now we can start to check in with our emotions today. What does your heart say? Is there any feelings that are there? They could be big, small. Maybe there's one that's just kind of pervading everything. Maybe there is many, and maybe they conflict, and maybe they don't make any sense, and you don't necessarily need to have a story to explain them or a word. Just letting the actual feeling itself be heard, be validated as a real part of your experience. And it doesn't matter how the feeling got there, and it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Let's take a few more moments here to let that feeling be heard and seen. And if you're not feeling much at all emotionally, or maybe there's a numbness or a not knowing, that's okay. That's a feeling too. We can start to notice our breathing. So if you'd like, you could bring your hands onto the belly or the ribs, or maybe the heart. And just start to notice the natural rise and fall of your breath. You don't need to change the breath right now. As you breathe normally, maybe noticing that sense of lifting, rise, expansion with the breath in, even if it's small. And on the exhale, there could be a sense of softening, a release, of letting something go. This is the nature of our being, this always bringing something new in the new moment, the new breath, nourishment, thoughts, ideas, words, everything new. And then it becomes old at some point and we release it, whether it's a belief that we hold, physically, things we ingest, of course the air we breathe. Maybe getting a sense of the idea that when we exhale, when we release the air in our body, maybe there's a bit of a loss there, but we create this space for something new. And that's what we do with our boundaries. We say no to one thing, or at least a part of something. So it allows us to invite in something more aligned with us, who we really are, how we really want to feel, or what we really need at any given moment. So we'll take a few more breaths right where we are, seeing if we can use the next few exhales to soften any effort or tension around the face. The jaw, maybe letting the teeth separate, the tongue drop away from the roof of the mouth. The belly soften. Okay. So coming to feel the whole body at once. Just feeling all the space that the body takes up, from the toes to the top of the head. In your body, there's an estimated 30 to 40 trillion cells. In the body that you live in, there are approximately 200 types of cells. The building blocks of your life, of your body. We have red blood cells and white. We have skin cells, nerve cells or neurons, fat cells, bone cells. We have so many. All these tiny little particles that make up our structure, our home. Just like individual humans, each type of cell has a different structure, a different size, a different shape and function. And because they are each different, they have different needs. Just like humans, we have different needs because we are different. Different experiences, different backgrounds, different ways of moving through this world. Just like the cells that make up our body. And just because a bone cell needs something different than a blood cell doesn't mean that either one is right or either one is wrong. They just need different things for their nourishment and their survival. So these cells, they have these walls, semi-permeable walls, which means that they have a barrier that allows only certain molecules to pass through. At the same time, the cell is pushing out waste, pushing out what it no longer needs, blocking things it doesn't need from entering its space. These cells that are making up the entirety of our body are constantly evaluating what nourishes their well-being, what it needs more of to thrive, to do what it's meant to do, to carry out its purpose. It knows that this particular molecule is going to increase my health. At the same time, the cell must constantly evaluate what is inside that no longer serves its purpose, what is no longer needed, and it pushes that waste through the cell wall, freeing up space. That's the best part. That once it gets rid of what it doesn't need anymore, it has all this space to accept in something more nourishing, more beneficial for its health. Amazingly, these cells that make up our body even communicate to each other. They share nutrients, they work together to get tasks done. All the different systems of our body are interacting always, and that goes right down to the cellular level. But what's important here is that the cells communicate their needs, not just to the things coming and going from the walls, the nutrients, the waste. They are communicating with other cells around them what they need. So I think it's fair to say that our cells are boundary experts. Their physical walls are a boundary mechanism, and the cell itself has the intelligence to decide what is needed and what isn't, or what is helpful, what is healthy, what is nourishing, and what isn't. So since you are made of 30 to 40 trillion cells, know that you can also communicate your needs. You can also invite in what nourishes you, and you can also block what drains, depletes, and is unhealthy for you, big or small. You can be a boundary expert too, because you are made of boundary experts. And sometimes, of course, I know we don't always get to choose what we let into our space, but sometimes we do, and more often than not we can. So when we think of being in a space where we either need to decide to put up a boundary, to say, I can't do that at that time, I can't be around this person, I can't see this, I can't talk about this, you remember that the strength to do this, you're literally made of it. You're literally made of the ability to enforce boundaries. So if you're comfortable where you are, we have a few moments left and we'll practice this together. So you can sit, you can lay down. If you need to move, you can move now and then come to a place that's comfortable. Maybe settling into some relative stillness, remembering that you are always welcome to move if you need to move. It's not going to ruin it, it's all good. And now you could remember the physical limits of your body again, so maybe kind of feeling all the places your skin touches. This could be considered our cell wall if the body was a cell, but I think I'd like us to expand it so there's some space between us and the wall. So imagining almost like you're in a big balloon suit. You have this protective barrier surrounding the whole body. It's kind of hovering above your skin. Maybe you would imagine what that would look like if there's a color. Is it clear? Is it glass? Is it thick? Is it thin? Just start to envision your wall, your barrier around you. Your membrane, your cell wall will only allow in what you choose to allow in. It will allow what is nourishing to your well-being, what is healthy for you. Inside that wall, it might also decide things it said yes to before, it no longer does. They're no longer required for our well-being, although they may have been at some point. So this might be certain ways we respond, certain beliefs we hold, certain people we hold close, jobs, parts of our identity may have served our well-being at one point, but maybe no longer. And if that's true for you, if there is something that was once the right thing to let in and is not anymore, you can imagine pushing it out of your cell wall, removing it from your space. Freeing up all this space to invite in something new, something more nourishing, more beneficial for your health. Just like cells, our main job is to do what we need to be healthy, to live. And helping others, being with others, has to come second. Or maybe if it does come second, it might allow us to show up better in those situations with more love, more energy and more compassion and understanding, because the cell is healthy. And then the cell could support the others only when it no longer needs to fight for its own survival. And when you are in a situation that you might not be able to control, you can bring your wall back, bring your cell wall, your membrane to surround you once again, and let this thing bounce off if you can. So if it's a hurtful comment, for example, or a trigger that comes at us, we can try to remember our wall. Allowing the safe space inside the wall to hold us in those moments, hold us together. And sometimes things will get in that we didn't mean to let in. Maybe it's a belief someone else has about you that we've internalized, for example. And then the cell, our beautiful body, our mind can work to push that thing out. Maybe not all at once, maybe it's a process. Remembering that the more we reduce what's harmful to us, whatever we can that's in our control, the more space we have to let love in, to let in nourishment, creativity, to work towards what we're here to do on this earth. Let's take a few breaths here, a few moments in silence. And you might think of the exhale as a way of pushing something out, because it is. And the inhale as a way of drawing something in. Something new, something nourishing, something loving. And you can use your breath in that way as much as you'd like. The inhale drawing in. The exhale reducing, releasing. Feel free to continue with that breathing practice as long as you'd like. I'll leave you to it. Thank you for practicing with me today. You're always welcome to get in contact with me if you have questions or feedback. It's an honor to practice with you. Thank you for being here. Shanti. Shanti means peace. Peace to you.